Queridos amigos,
Friends, how are you? Each passenger that comes on board our train tells us their impressive story. But today, you are going to be amazed because today, Joseph Fadelle comes on board our train. Joseph. You might know him because he wrote a book that's quite well known, The Price to Pay, where he tells us his conversion from Islam to Catholicism. It's a very complicated and difficult conversion, a complicated process of conversion because he had to stand up to his family, his favorite uncle. All of this took place in 2000 after a very serious argument he had to make a breathtaking exit. Wounded by the bullets, miraculously he got out alive. I say miraculously because the fatwa, which is the sentence to death, which he has since the year 1997, is still in effect and is never withdrawn. So he is still persecuted by his family and Islam. Joseph, how are you? Thank you so much for coming on board our train for this great courageous act today.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you.
Joseph, I understand that you are a very distinguished man because you belong to a very important family in the Shiite tribe. In fact, your father is a direct descendant from Muhammad. Consequently, you would have been a descendant too. How did you discover Christianity in such a way that you choose it as your faith, your true faith?
The truth is that God offered me a very special deal. Before getting to know Christ, I had already abandoned Islam, at least on a personal level. While in the military service, I met a Christian who ended up giving me a Bible. I had asked him to let me read his sacred book with the intention of looking for the contradictions, the dark points that I thought I would find in the Bible, to be able to show him that he was in a false, despicable religion. My intention was to read the gospel in order to later present him with the Islamic faith. To my surprise, instead of giving me the scriptures, he asked me to read the Quran first and to reflect upon what I was reading. After reading the Quran, I spent almost 5 months trying to sort out all of my doubts with an Ayatollah, one of the Islamic teachers. In the end, I reached the conclusion that the book couldn't be a book from God.
That Christian, the Christian that presented Christ to you, who in your book you call Masood, even though I'm sure for safety you have changed many names. From what you relate in your book, he was a great example for you which brought you to Christ, to the Lord. Were you able to keep in contact with him?
I think that each and every one of us has a mission in this life. This person played his role in my conversion and then disappeared.
I suppose that when you made the decision to convert to Christianity, you assumed the risks entailed. Because the Quran orders that all those who convert to Christianity have to be killed.
When we accept Christ, we receive all the courage that we need. Jesus told us, do not fear those who can kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. That's why I wasn't afraid. Even today, I am not afraid they might kill me. I'm not afraid to die.
How did your family react when they found out that you had converted?
As you can probably imagine, it was a catastrophe for my family. The important thing for them was to avoid a scandal and avoid dishonoring the family. When they found out, they tied me up and stuck me in the trunk of a car and drove over 200 kilometers through the desert in order to kill me. The Ayatollah issued a fatwa, or death sentence, to kill me. He told my father and my brothers, kill him and Allah will reward you. But thanks to God, they did not kill me. They chose to imprison me and torture me with the hope that I was going to change my mind and reveal the name of the Christian who had given me the Bible, the priest I used to talk to, and the church where I attended. They wanted that information in order to destroy the church and kill the priests. They hoped that I would return home with them and go back to being a good Muslim, the way that they wanted. But that didn't happen.
But your path to baptism was long and hard.
Of course. The church in Iraq rejected me, so they couldn't baptize me. It was hard, but they had every right to act as they did. At the time, it was very painful for me that they rejected me. But I now realize that my family, my tribe, and the government could have done a lot of damage to the church if they had baptized me. The pressure they were up against was very strong. That's why they couldn't do it. 4 years after my conversion, I met a priest who allowed me to attend his parish and go to Mass there, but he did not agree to baptize me. Shortly after, my wife also converted, and we managed to find a priest who was willing to baptize us. But he told us that we had to prepare ourselves very well. Right before the priest decided that we were ready to be baptized, my parents found out about my conversion, and that's when everything happened. After getting out of jail where I was imprisoned for 18 months, they told me that I had to get out of Iraq because it was dangerous for me and for the church.
You were baptized while you were in exile in the Jordan. What memories do you have of that day?
It is very difficult to describe what that day was like. I always say that I didn't walk that day, I flew. For those of us who have received baptism as adults, it's very different from receiving it when you're little. I wanted to run through the streets shouting to everyone that I was finally a Christian. But since I was in Jordan, which is also a Muslim country, I couldn't scream. It was a dream of mine, and they took it away.
As well as the problems that you had with your family, the fatwa that they made against you to try and kill you. Of course, I imagine that you have to be changing your address continually for security reasons. Is it hard to live like that? Is it hard to live like a nomad?
The truth is that my consolation is living with Christ. He is the one who gives us the strength, and He gives us everything, in fact. I consider myself to be a normal person, quite normal. I'm sure that you are stronger than I am. I'm not a hero with some kind of superpower or anything like that. I'm weaker than you are. But I know the Lord. I know who He is, and I know that He takes care of me. He gives me the strength to be able to bear witness to Him. I know that there are a lot of people who are not going to like what I have to say, but I have to say it. Jesus told us the truth will set you free, and I have to speak the truth.
You mentioned earlier that when you read the Quran, in your reflections you found many contradictions. Can you explain to us a few of them?
The problem isn't just the contradictions, even though there are a lot of them in the Quran. The problem is that the Quran is a book that commands us to kill, and not just once. It is a command that is repeated over and over again. For example, the 9th surah, the Al-Tuwabi, is a command to kill everyone who isn't Muslim. The same surah insists upon the fact that the Jews and the Christians must be killed. And if they are not killed or do not convert to Islam, they have to pay the so-called al-Yazai tax. But that's not the only problem. Not only do you have to pay that tax, but you have to do it with your head lowered, without dignity. And they consider the Quran to be the word of God because they claim that God dictated it to the Prophet. Can you explain to me what kind of God this would have to be?
What is it that you found in Christ that you did not find in Islam? Because it's not that easy.
I found everything. Within the Christian faith, there is life and there is love. In Islam, there's nothing but death and revenge. The difference is so great that it's beyond comparison. I'm going to give you a very simple example. When ISIS or Daesh, however you want to call them, burnt the Jordanian pilot alive, do you know why they did it like that? Do you know why they burnt him alive? They did it because the Quran tells them that they must punish those who have aggrieved them in the exact same way that they were wronged. What does that mean? That their line of reasoning, if the pilot bombed us from his plane and burnt us alive, he must suffer the same things that he made us suffer. That's why they burnt him. Compare this with what Jesus teaches us. Christ tells us that we should love our enemies. Islam, on the other hand, only teaches hatred and vengeance. You can't even compare them.
Joseph, who are Mary and Jesus for you?
Jesus is everything for me. I don't just love him, I adore him. And I'm sure that he loves me very much. Our Lady is God's gift to all humanity. She is the mother of each and every one of us, not just the mother of Christians. Sometimes the Christians think that she is only their mother, but the truth is that she is the mother for every member of the human race. She is the gift that was given to us so that we wouldn't be left orphans. A lot of the things that we read about Our Lady in the Bible really caught my attention. I can see that she isn't just our mother. She also participates in Christ's redemption. In the wedding feast at Cana, for example, she asked Jesus to convert the water into wine. Jesus hadn't done any miracles yet, but she asked him to do it. How does she know that he had the power to do that? She knew everything. Some people say that she gave birth to Jesus and that was it. But that wasn't her only mission. It also impresses me when they went to Jerusalem and they lost the child Jesus. When they found him afterwards in the temple, she sees him and tells him that they were worried about him and that he shouldn't have disappeared like that. Jesus responded, "Do you not know that I should be in my Father's house?" She knew everything.
Sorry for insisting, but are you afraid? Are you not afraid that as a result of the fatwa, which is irrevocable, that someone might appear behind you to kill you?
How do I feel or how does he feel? I don't know why people take it like that. We can die at any moment. I could fall down the stairs and die, or have a car accident, or be in a plane crash. But if I die in the name of Jesus, for me it would be an honor.
So, you would pay the price again?
Of course I would. As a matter of fact, we still haven't paid hardly anything at all. On the contrary, we have received a lot, and we will be held accountable for that the day that we present ourselves before God. God freed us from our sin. We were slaves to everything, and He has set us free. He chose to come to us, and He has given us eternal life. We ought to be incredibly grateful throughout our whole life, and even so, we will never be able to pay Him back for what He has done for us.
Joseph, thank you so much for what you're telling us. Would you like to add anything else?
I would just like to thank all of you. I ask the Lord to protect you from all evil and to bless you. I would also like to ask you to remember me in your prayers. And I pray that all jealousy and hatred be removed from your hearts. You can close all the doors against evil, against the devil. Only one door will remain open, and it's the hatred and the jealousy that they will feel towards you. That's why I ask God to keep you from all hatred and jealousy.
Joseph, I admire you, and I know that I'm really annoying, but how do you keep that smile knowing that your life is threatened 24/7?
The truth is that it's not something that comes from us. It's something that God works in us. We are nothing without God. When people see a religious sister, they ask themselves how she is able to maintain the purity in which she lives. And many people think that the life of a religious sister lived like that in purity and chastity is sad. But the religious live their lives with joy because they live for God. Many people from outside looking in think that their life is difficult and that it's not joyful. But I know religious sisters, and they're religious sisters where you are, and you can tell that they're happy and joyful, right? You yourself are always smiling.
Joseph, can I ask you about your relationship with the Eucharist? How is it for a Muslim converted to Christianity to discover Christ's presence in the Eucharist?
When I finally became a Christian, I had already left Islam. When I converted, my greatest desire was to receive communion at least once in my life, to at least once be able to receive the body of Christ. I had to wait for 13 years in order to fulfill my heart's desire. There was no possibility in Iraq to receive the Eucharist. But my desire was so great that I even began to think about the possibility of entering into one of the churches to rob the Eucharist. Thanks be to God, I mentioned it to the priest beforehand so that he could see how much I really desired it. Even if you go in and rob the Eucharist, since you have not received baptism, it would not be your first communion. It would be normal bread for you and you would not receive Jesus. That's why I didn't do it and waited until my baptism.
How is your relationship with the Eucharist currently?
For me, going to Mass isn't just being there. It's living the Last Supper again. When I receive communion, it is Jesus Christ who comes to me, who is in me. That is what I feel. My 7-year-old daughter doesn't like to pray very much, and she does so very quickly. But for me, Mass is like being in the Last Supper with Jesus. It's not like it is for some of you. I feel that I'm receiving Jesus himself in communion. Sometimes I hurry my 17-year-old daughter when we're going to Mass, and she asks me, why am I in such a hurry? And I respond that it's the Last Supper, and I want to be there from the very beginning.
Do you long for heaven, Joseph?
I have faith that God will take us to heaven. And I ask God to take me there. And I'm certain that all human beings are invited to unite ourselves to Him. I want to go to heaven.
So do I. Joseph, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on board our train today, for this act of courage, for this act of faith. Friends, in these moments when Christians are being persecuted, when we are being persecuted, in these terrible moments where there are fatwas, irrevocable sentences, persecute people like Joseph, and I'm sure many others. In these moments when many people around us in our society don't understand why we believe in Christ, in His presence in the Eucharist, in our society where all type of values are lost and people let themselves be led by discouragement and are not brave. Let's pray. Let's pray for the new Christians, for young people, for children. Let's pray for these children who have received the body of Christ for the first time so that they may persevere, that they may continue, that they may get to know the Word of God. Friends, we have to go. But before we leave, I ask for your prayers. Your prayers for the persecuted Christians, Christians who have been killed, for their families, for Joseph and his family, for us. Thank you. Thank you.